Hello out there to all of you and the resistance. This is Nicholas Tecosky, host of Right Club in Atlanta, and this is Pandemic Lit. Right Club, for those of you who do not know, consists of two writers expounding on two opposing topics for 7 minutes apiece. Today, home versus away. First up, chosen completely at random because there's no other way to do things anymore, it's Christina Schmitt, a poet and performance artist from Atlanta, Georgia, whose work is interested in the intersections of grief, celebration, and tenderness. Seems pretty apropos. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome in your hearts to Christina Schmitt with Home.
Hello, my name is Christina Schmitt, and I'm coming to Right Club with the word home. Growing up, I lived in the same house my entire life. I know all of the upstairs floorboard creaks and how to climb out of the second bathroom window onto the roof. I know the playroom carpet soda stains and how the upstairs shower never drains properly and somehow always has some of mine and my sister's hair in it, even though neither of us live there anymore. Our home hosted an annual Christmas Eve party for as long as I can remember. It was always a big thing. We sent out invitations in the beginning, but I think at some point we stopped and people just started showing up to our house between 6 p.m. and midnight the night before Christmas. And we always looked forward to one of our neighbors' fudge and never anticipated the one neighbor who would always show up at 11:30 as everyone else was leaving. A few Christmas Eve parties ago, I somehow left the faucet running in the upstairs bathroom, and the sink was unknowingly clogged. It must have run for a long time because it overflowed and flooded the ceiling below in the living room where 50 people were enjoying festivities. Slowly, the flooded water created a bubble on the ceiling, ready to burst and soak all of the guests. As it grew bigger and bigger, my friend's dad sprung into action and got a stepladder and a bucket, popped the growing bubble like a zit, and slowly let the water pimple drain. Truly a holiday miracle. We laugh about it now, but at the time my dad was not amused. And that home has changed over the years. When my mom passed nearly 8 years ago, the house shifted. Slowly it took on a new color, new interiors. The walls were painted and the kitchen redone, turning into a more mature version of itself, demonstrating how we all age through grief and time. Home is a shifting definition. But there are parts of that house that are structurally too complicated to adjust. You can't just get rid of the back porch, where our dog conveniently got stuck underneath in the rain the night before my mom's funeral, and our whole family spent a better part of the evening trying to convince him to come out. You can't just replace scratched hardwood kitchen floors where my mother and I would sit for hours at a time. And I haven't lived there in a long time, but I've inherited so much of that house through the years. Literally. Some people come with baggage, but I come with very heavy furniture. All of the furniture I own is old-schooled hardwood and from my childhood home. Bulky, difficult to carry upstairs, none of it matches, and, as I often remind my partner, we can never get rid of any of it. It is all sentimental. Even my great-grandmother's ancient and rickety bed frame that could break if you sneeze too hard near it. When I called my dad to confirm this is where the bed frame come from, because the show is recorded and my family could be watching, he said it came from my mother's grandmother, who they called Gaga. When I inquired about her real name, he hesitated and said, Mrs. Gaga. And I only include this part of the story in this because, once again, my family could be watching. My partner has moved all of this heavy and sentimental furniture countless times. Recently, we got a new addition. My cousin offered us my parents' first kitchen table that they had passed on to him and his wife when they got married years ago, and my partner understood that we had to take it, even though it is heavy and round, and he has explicitly shared his preference for kitchen tables that are not heavy and round multiple times. And in return for ancient and half-broken bed frames and heaviness, my partner shares in creating a home with me. And this season of social distancing, a video game rebooted that had an important role in his childhood called Animal Crossing. It happened to come out the Friday morning of the week in which we began practicing working from homes. For those of you who don't know, Animal Crossing is a game in which you create a character, live on an island, go fishing, find fossils and bugs, create a museum, and practice living in virtual communities. You can visit each other's homes, exchange fruits, and send gifts. There is no drama here, only fishing and friends. My partner always refers to his virtual island and home as our island and our home, even though I have never touched the controller. He shows me things that we caught and that we donated to the museum, even though I've only watched from the couch or listened from the other room. These days, home is less defined by heavy furniture and more about virtual and online communities. I found more comfort in video games and FaceTimes and online open mics than I have in heavy, round kitchen tables. Home is a shifting definition. A while ago, my dad decided it was time to move. He has slowly been packing up the house for the past few months, preparing to move somewhere new in May. And doesn't everything in life happen at once? The grappling of losing a childhood home, so small and yet still important in this historic season of life. I am not ashamed to admit I am grieving a home I do not live in anymore. There is no place in the world that holds as many as my mother's footsteps. But I can be building a new home and also grieve an old one. I am allowed to feel more than one emotion at a time. You were always allowed to feel more than one emotion at a time. I'm learning what home means again in so many ways. The place where I am from, the place I spend so much time now, the virtual connections I keep with my family and communities. Home can have more than one definition at a time. Right now, home is also an office and a gym and a messy library. It is the place I learn about Animal Crossing and my coworkers watch my cat sleep on the couch during Zoom calls. It is the new space my dad is moving to where new memories will be made and Christmas Eve gatherings held. There will always be the sentiments, the structures of a home that are too heavy to get rid of. There is no shame in grieving the homes, the routines, the things that were, while also learning what new ones can look like. And I am grappling with the reality that my dad's new house won't have scratched kitchen floorboards or a back porch. But it will be a new space that we will all learn how to celebrate and grieve in. And I know, no matter where he calls home, he will always remind me to make sure the upstairs faucet is turned off.
Once again, that was Christina Schmitt. Next up, you know him and I know him. Myke Johns is my co-producer in Right Club and performs his music as Meaning of Everything, which you can find on Bandcamp or on Facebook. It's lovely. Myke today with Away.
All right. In 3, 2, 1. Those among us who have crossed state lines dressed as Beetlejuice know that going away is often involuntary. One day you're putting on a black and white striped suit similar to the one that Michael Keaton wore in the film Beetlejuice and applying corpse paint to your face, and the next thing you know, you're waking up in Kentucky. Let me go back to the beginning. For kindergarten, I went to Montessori Academy in Warren, Michigan. It was a short walk away from my house, across the street, through a field. Now, if you don't know, a Montessori education is characterized by an emphasis on independence, freedom within limits, and respect for a child's natural, psychological, physical, and social development. Thank you, Wikipedia. I remember nap times. I remember running around outside, learning how blocks and colored shapes affected my feelings. We even had a little graduation ceremony at the end of the year. Me and my classmates all got dressed up in red caps and gowns, and after we got our kindergarten diplomas, we all lined up at the big slide that was only for the older kids. We took turns climbing up and sliding down. It was fucking adorable. It set me up for some pretty crashing disappointments at all of my subsequent graduations, but at the time, it was just the thing to do. We were all commemorating our advancement to big kid status. We were climbing the ladder of scholastic achievement, sliding into the rest of our, it was the beginning of a long road of friendship between our classmates, except for me, because I never went back to that school again. I was the firstborn. My parents had no idea what they were doing. Their well-intentioned search for a good school made me the perpetual new kid. I went to 5 elementary schools. 5. One after the other. Montessori Academy, St. Vincent, Messmore, Green Acres, Hightower Trail. 5. So, after a year of finger painting and napping on cots, of course, the next logical step was Catholic school. Boom! St. Vincent Ferrer, Madison Heights. Mass 3 times a week, worksheets, classrooms full of brand new shitty kids that I didn't know. It wasn't hard or oppressive so much as it was just fucking dull. So I kind of shut down. Spent class lazily staring out the window and not finishing my work, not being allowed to go out for recess. My teachers called a conference with my mom, and they suggested putting me on Ritalin. My mom asked about my grades, and my teachers had to admit that they were among the highest in the class. Hashtag humble brag. So my mom asked them to kindly stay the fuck out of her medicine cabinet. So several million points to my mom there, although it did mean transferring me to another school the next year. This one was in Utica, way the fuck out on 16.5 Mile Road, Messmore Elementary, where I got a tooth kicked out of my face in a playground game of kick the other kid off the monkey bars. And despite having a great time doing that, I had to go to school in my own district the next year. So I literally left pieces of myself there and fucked off to Green Acres Elementary for 3rd grade. Now, I had one friend at Green Acres. He was a fellow geek like me. We liked video games. We liked the Weird Al movie UHF. We hung out on the playground together. I wish I could remember his name, because I'd like to think that averaging one friend per school year would make those kids more memorable, but sadly, that's not the case. So while everyone else was passing around yearbooks for their friends to sign come summertime, I was at my desk, slipping my copy of this limited little book into my bag and waiting for no one to ask me to sign theirs. Everyone else expected to see each other the next year in 4th grade. I had no illusions that I would ever see any of those kids ever again. When you come and go like I had done, you resist attachment and sentiment and, feelings. Everyone else got to look forward to the beginning of the next school year when they'd see their friends again, and I just kept being sent away and away and away. But this isn't to say that I am broken and I don't know how to make friends, though I am and I don't. My itinerant years made me distrustful of platitudes like home is where the heart is, or there's no place like home, as if you can't be a whole person if you can't find your place, as if you don't carry your heart with you wherever you go. Because it is distancing that imbues home with meaning. Separation is where the learning happens. Think of how many great works of literature that are about the journey. You leave, you learn your valuable lesson, you throw the one ring into Mount Doom, you go home a more complete hobbit. Toward the end of 1990, my dad's job transferred him from Michigan down to Georgia, so we moved. It happened quickly to my 9-year-old self. My parents brought me over to my cousin's house for trick-or-treating that year, and I had insisted on going as Beetlejuice. We went door to door in someone else's neighborhood from the one that we were leaving. We were all loaded into the van, and then I fell asleep with my bag of candy, still dressed in stripes and corpse paint, and I woke up headed south, and that chapter of my life, my Yankee past, ended as the sun rose over Kentucky. My last elementary school was my first in the South, Hightower Trail in Conyers. And that was the end of all of my itinerant school hopping. I made friends, and I kept them for the most part. Going away is where you create a bunch of loose ends. And home is where you can tie them up. After that, you can look at all those misshapen knots and feel the calluses on your hands, wash the Halloween makeup off of your face, and start again. Thanks.
And that's about it, ladies and gentlemen, for this week's episode of Pandemic Lit. If you are interested in doing some Pandemic Lit, write to us at writeclubatlanta.com. If you want to vote on this particular bout, you can look right below you on tenderbloodsport.com for a poll. The winner today will get a loving cup of deathless fucking glory. We're also putting underneath here the Cash App, Venmo app, or PayPal of our writers. Tip them a little something for all the work they're doing for you. Times is tough and shit is dire. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week with another episode of Pandemic Lit. Y'all be safe and stay home. Pandemic Lit is a production of Right Club in Atlanta, Georgia. Right Club was created by our overlord Ian Belknap in the cold climes of Chicago, Illinois. Our producers here in Atlanta are Myke Johns, Dani Hurd, and myself, Nicholas Tecosky. And this wonderful video was edited together and color corrected, and all the edges were smoothed out by Parker Davidson, whom I hope to get incredibly drunk with again sometime soon. Y'all, I miss you. Be safe.